Black voters were obviously key to President Biden being elected in 2020, and polls have shown that his support among young Black Americans has softened. How worrying is that, or should that be, for the president's reelection prospects?
Look, I think the lesson is that no group, whether it's young voters, whether it's Black voters, whether it's Latino voters, whether it's women voters, whether it's any voter, wants to be taken for granted. And you have to work on it, and you have to work on it consistently, not just a few weeks before the election. I think the Biden campaign understands that. That is why he is at Howard University giving that speech today, because it's basically an admission of the importance of that vote. As you know, the speeches, the commencement speeches that a president and vice president gives are curated and are picked. And this is a reason for that.
And Anna, back to the Republican field and what's happening in Iowa this weekend. We heard our colleague Steve Contorno saying that DeSantis does not appear to be wanting to go after Trump this weekend, that he's avoiding these direct attacks on Trump, almost certainly because he fears alienating that Trump base, that Republican base. What do you make of that strategy?
Well, DeSantis is going to have to do something. I think he hasn't come into the race before because the legislative session was going on in Florida. That legislative session ended last week, and he's still signing some of the bills that were passed. But I also think DeSantis has done himself an enormous amount of harm in this legislative session and in the last few months in Florida. He has shown himself to be the type of person who weaponizes government, whether it's against a drag brunch or against Disney World. And that is costing him. Floridians don't like that. And I think the number that's got to be worrying DeSantis the most is the fact that his support has dropped, not just nationally, but in the state of Florida, where we see him most and where we know him best. And that is something that should be of great concern to him.
Scott, I want to get your thoughts on the flip side of that, and President Trump focusing primarily on Ron DeSantis, despite the fact that there are others in the field, namely Nikki Haley, Asa Hutchinson. What do you make of that tactic?
Well, I mean, the reality is all these other candidates are virtually nowhere. If you look at the polling, they're all in low single digits. They just don't carry the same positive name ID in the Republican Party as DeSantis. He's the only one in double digits. I think Trump thinks if he could go ahead and dispatch DeSantis now, none of these other people are ever going to be able to rise up and consolidate the anti-Trump lane of the party, or at least the people who want to do something else. Maybe they don't dislike Trump, but maybe they think we need a new nominee. So dispatching DeSantis before he ever really gets out of the gate, which he is working very diligently on, obviously, is priority one for Trump. And there's some evidence that it's working at the moment. But I wouldn't count out DeSantis. There's a lot of runway left in the race.